Hello, everybody, and welcome to Taking Control, the ADHD podcast on True Story FM. I'm Pete Wright, and look, it's Nikki Kinzer.
Well, hello. Pete Wright.
Hi, Nikki. How are you?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm doing fairly well. And we've got a great show coming up. I'm very excited about our guest today.
Me too.
You know, he's a former carny.
And psychic.
He said, and psychic, and he ran a medicine show. He did tell us that he once consorted with con men. I don't know if that implies that he was himself a con
or not.
man.
Yeah, I don't know. He'll have to come back and share that story with us.
Certainly will. A fantastic conversation with Doc Anderson today about rewriting your own hero's journey. Can't wait to bring him on the show. But before we do that, head over to TakeControlADHD.com. Get to know us a little bit better. You can listen to the show right here on the website or subscribe to our mailing list right there on the homepage, and we'll let you know each time a new episode is released. Connect with us on Twitter or Facebook at Take Control ADHD. And if this show has ever touched you, if you like the kinds of guests that we're bringing on this season, if you just like the community that we're trying to build, we sure would appreciate it if you head over to patreon.com/the ADHD podcast. That's patreon.com/the ADHD podcast, and check out the ADHD community there. For a few dollars a month, you can jump in and get access to our early access episodes. You can join us for the live stream. If you were a member, you would be listening to me screw up this show live. In person, you would be watching a video and watch my Zoom freeze right in the middle of a conversation. Now, if you're just listening to the show on the internet, you miss all that good stuff. You miss all the screw ups. You also get access to the guests. Each time we record a show, you can hang out after the episode and listen to and get your questions, specific questions, answered by each of our guests, if you so have them, and all that and more. There's so much more. There's more. So check it out, patreon.com/the ADHD podcast. And very, very great thanks to Carrie and Allison and Lindsay in the last few days. We are thrilled you are here, that you've decided to join the community and support this show. We can't wait to get to know you a little bit better in our community. And Nikki, I think the title is set.
I don't know what that means.
Of Pete's new podcast.
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
Yeah. I think it has been.
Jeez. Okay. I saw this when we first started recording it, and I'm like, Nikki, the title is set.
I know.
And I'm thinking, the title of the podcast? Of this podcast
Of this
episode?
podcast that we're already,
Yeah. Okay.
No.
What is it?
I think we're just going to go with the long-standing, much-loved placeholder. A one-word podcast, placeholder. That's going to be Pete's. That's going to be Pete's new podcast, and it's going to happen twice a month, and it's going to cover the extended conversations around many of the issues we've already started talking about on the show, in and around and related to tech. So we're going to start with talking about hyperscheduling. We've got the first half year of shows kind of sketched out with what we're going to be talking about. We're very excited to do it. And the trailer and first episode will be coming out just for members as a little bonus pre-treat soon. Now, I know we've been talking about it for a long time, but we've been talking about it because we aligned it with this tier thing, with this target goal on Patreon, because it's expensive to produce a podcast. And so we had said that we need to get to this certain number in order to be able to afford all of our collective time to be able to do a new podcast. And we're so close. But because of the nature of Patreon, we get almost to that place, and then it flushes at the end of every month, and some people drop off and some people join, and it ends up, we've been hovering right at this level for a long time. If you are interested in placeholder, if you want to see what Pete's tech-related podcast has to offer, and you have been thinking about joining for a long time, but you've never done it, please jump in. Become a paying supporter, a patron. This show is just for patrons. It is only for you. And so it won't be in the iTunes store. It won't be anywhere but your personal podcast feed that you'll get through Patreon. So we're really excited to do something just for members, but we need, if you've ever thought about it, if you see any value in ADHD-related tech conversations like the ones we're going to be having, around just how you wrestle with technology and how you manage reading lists and how you journal and to-do systems and archiving and digital archives and photography and all kinds of things. Head over again to patreon.com/the ADHD podcast and give us a look, because I am itching to get this podcast off the ground. So help me help you. Let's Jerry Maguire this thing. Help me help you.
That's right.
Get us over the hump. Thank you. Nikki, do we have any other announcements?
No, not today.
Shall we do the show?
Let's do it.
Let's do it. Erik Doc Anderson, I don't know. I know you're an ADHD coach. And unfortunately, before we started the show today, you started talking about all the other things you've done. And now my mind is dizzy with things I want to talk to you about, from traveling medicine shows to horse trading to the work in the con field. I don't know. We're not going to be able to get to it all, but I want to give you the floor. How on earth do you introduce yourself, sir?
I'm an advocate from way back. I have an ADHD. I also have cerebral palsy, which means I walk like a flamingo, except the knees go the right way. And I grew up doing disability advocacy, and my family business was racing horses. So I grew up, and my guiding influences were carnies and horse traders and gamblers and con artists and fortune tellers and magicians and all of this. And so I had this wonderfully eclectic childhood of experiences. And then as an adult, I learned, when I was working in advocacy, I learned that I had ADHD, and suddenly so many things made sense, because growing up, everyone just said, "Oh, that's Erik. He walks funny," and that's all they ever looked at. Is they saw an external thing, and they attributed everything to that. And I felt like I was broken. And when I found out I had ADHD, suddenly everything clicked, and it launched a whole different journey. And so I describe my ADHD as the world's smallest petting zoo. My goldfish brain can't remember, my hamster brain can't focus, and my terrier brain won't let go of the damn sock monkey.
I love it.
Yes.
Well, and that is so much about why we wanted to talk to you today. Your background being extraordinarily eclectic as it is, also your work in advocacy and this whole idea behind rewriting the stories that are told about us and the story that we tell about ourselves. You and I were talking before we started about this idea that we live in metaphor, and I know that's so true for me. Like, I need these metaphors, these stories, to help me provide an anchor or a framework to the way I live with my ADHD, and so we're really excited to talk to you today about how we rewrite our own stories in a way that helps us make sense. I want to, Nikki, give it to you. This was originally your brainstorm. How do you want to set this up?
Well, I'm just really curious to learn more from Doc about his journey. And I think that part of what I want us to accomplish today is for people to see that you can do what you want to do with these limitations, and ADHD doesn't have to stop you from doing what you want to do. And just hear a little bit more about this hero engine. Oh my gosh, I just took a glimpse of this.
Yeah, we're definitely going to get into the hero.
And
sure.
And I'm sure this is part of your ADHD coaching piece too. But so I'm really interested in hearing about that. So yeah, I just want to get to know him a little bit. See what he's about.
Let's talk more about that journey to ADHD. I mean, you said it unlocked a lot of things for you, that sort of mind-blowing experience, and I want to hear more about that. What was unlocked for you?
Well, I was 37 years old. I was working in disability advocacy. Before I had worked as the affirmative action ADA diversity coordinator for the state of Iowa, and then later I went on to a federal parent training program and working with children and parents in schools with I.D.E.A, Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, getting services for kids in schools. And one of the things that we did was we presented informational programs to parents and schools on different topics. One of them, of course, was ADHD. And yet I had never connected the dots. And we were at a conference and presenting. I was presenting on I.D.E.A. issues. And a friend of mine who I'd known for years, he and his mom were presenting as a keynote speaker. And I hate to admit it, but I really didn't want to go. But, I wasn't interested in that. But I was very interested in supporting him and moral support. So I went, and he was talking about growing up with ADHD. And as I'm sitting there watching this, my jaw just slowly crawls down my chest as he kept reading from the diary that I never wrote.
Yeah.
And wait,
yeah.
what? Wait, no, and all of these things. And I told my executive director, and now I had a fabulous boss at that point. She was amazing. She taught me so many things. And she said, okay, this is huge. Do you need to take the rest of the day and go process on this? And I looked at her and I said, I'm right here in the middle of a special education conference with experts all around me. I couldn't be in a better
why would
place.
I possibly want to abandon this moment right now?
Right.
And that was my introduction. Yeah. And then as I was leaning into this and learning about ADHD, now I told you that, my background is in magic and performance and comedy and all of this, because as like so many ADHDers, I have an eclectic work history. I don't have a career. I have an eclectic work history. Okay. That is how ADHD is that. And so one of the things that I would do is I would take a deck of cards and I would use it as a fidget, doing a very, very quiet thing called a Pharaoh shuffle. Now, a Pharaoh shuffle was used in the early 1900s for the game of Pharaoh, and it was a way of perfectly interweaving every other card through an entire deck to break up winning pairs in the game of Pharaoh. And it is kind of a difficult thing to master. And so I would sit in meetings and I would do silent Pharaoh shuffles. And we would have, I swear to dog, there's a point to this, and I'm getting there. We would have people come in for outside meetings, or for meetings in our office. And my executive director loved to sit them where they could see me fidgeting with this deck. And so I would sit there with my head down and doing these very, very intricate shuffles. And she said she could watch them just getting angrier and angrier as I obviously was not paying attention. And oh my God, how disrespectful is that? And then about the time the veins started, pumping on their forehead, I would pop up, I would look up, I would ask a couple of very cogent questions that showed not only was I paying attention, but I was operating 2 or 3 levels deeper than everyone else on the topic. And she said it was a glorious moment because inevitably they would, after the meeting, talk to her and go, I have never seen anything like that. And Jewel would say, well, Erik has ADHD, and fidgeting is one of the ways that he keeps his brain engaged. We offer a training on ADHD. Can we bring that into your office?
Yeah.
Oh, man. What a perfect example of dog meet pony show. Like, we can solve this problem for you. That's fantastic.
So when did you decide to become an ADHD coach? Like, how did that come into your career path?
Was it that moment?
Yeah, was it that moment where you can...
No, okay. Let's back this up. Now, I had spent my formative years on parimutuel tracks and county fairs. That was where I grew up, okay, surrounded by all of these interesting things. And
I just have this thought right now of you being just like looking for a job and saying, yes, I'm perfect for this job, and also completely unhireable. Like, those two things exist at the same time, and it's so perfect.
Well, now, Jewel, when I went to apply for that job, they didn't have a job available. And my background was also in graphic design and
Of course it
communication.
is.
And
Yeah, of
so
course it
she
is.
said, I can hire someone with a disability who gets it. I can hire a graphic designer, but to find someone that gets both parts of these, they made a position for me because they
Yeah.
couldn't afford not to, use these talents
Yeah.
that were together. And so I stayed with them for a number of years until she left and things started to go south. And I read the writing on the wall, and I left. And in like 2005. And I spent the next 10 years, I went back to my roots. And so I became a performer again while I was still young enough to do that after spending years in self-advocacy and institutional advocacy and school advocacy and employment advocacy. I went back to my first love of performing, which is the psychology of all of these hidden communities and why things work and amazing stuff. But so from 2005 till 2015, I was doing a traveling medicine wagon comedy show at fairs and festivals all over the Midwest and West. I had my own medicine show wagon, the whole 9 yards. I was having a ball. And then in 2015, on my birthday, I got heat stroke and a cookie. And yeah, it was nasty. It was 107 degrees, 97% humidity, and we were doing everything right, drinking, self-care, all of that. And I came off stage and I
Wow.
dropped.
Oh, my goodness.
And then after that, I lost all of my tolerance for heat, and I couldn't do outdoor shows anymore. And so I had to say goodbye to 10 years of a career that I had built, that I
Yeah.
adored. And so I was looking, what else am I going to do? And so I wanted to go back and do advocacy, but I didn't want to do it in an institutional setting where so many things were circumscribed about what I could do and what I couldn't do and how you do it and institutional limitations. And I started looking at different things. Well, could I get certification in CBT or DBT? But those you end up working in a nursing home or working under and I've done nursing home programs and shows for decades. Love them. Because old age and treachery wins over youth and enthusiasm pretty much every time. But or you'd have to work under a psychiatrist or a psychologist. And then my wife, I married above my species. I am a very lucky man. My wife said, "Did you know ADHD coaching was a thing?" Now she said that 3 times.
Well, of course
Oh,
she
yes.
did. Of course she did. Because when you're reachers like we are, they've always said it first. And they're right.
Yeah. And so I went, wait, what? That's a thing? And so I looked into it, and I looked for what kind of training does that take, and looked at a couple different programs. And then I started calling. Okay, I'm interested in this program. I went to ADCA, the ADD
Oh, yeah.
Coaching
So did I.
Academy. David works. Yeah. And so what I did was I go, okay, they look good. And then I started looking at their roster of coaches, and I picked 3 of them that looked like me, that looked like my level of schooling, my any number of things. And I called them, and I grilled them about, tell me what the training is like, tell me what it's like to be a coach, tell me about all the things.
Yeah.
And going, wow, this is what I was looking for. And frankly, is a lot easier to do than being a professional psychic, which I've done that too.
And did you move to, McMurdo Station to do your practice now? Get out of the heat? Are you coming to us from the Antarctic?
No, I'm in St. Louis, and far enough south that the Episcopalians handle snakes, but
Okay. All right. Let's talk then a little bit about the Hero Engine. We posted the image for people in the live stream. It'll be in the show notes with the podcast. We have a connection in our love for Joe Campbell and the hero's journey. And for you, that inspired, it sounds like, a whole language around talking about how we handle our, the negative stories that are so easy for us to tell about ourselves. Tell us about it.
Yes. Well, okay. For any of you out there that go, wait, hero journey, Joseph Campbell, what's that? If you put a hero journey into Wikipedia, you are going to find out more than you want to know. There's the 17, 22, 45 steps of the monomyth. And it's a great big, huge Freudian thing that is a product
Before
of its
long,
time.
you'll be doing Cornell notes of the Odyssey. Don't worry about it. It's okay. You can let it go.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
And that, I mean, remember that these are stories, and that Odysseus was just a guy trying to get home after a bad day at work. Okay. So what I did was I took all of these pieces of the great monomyth, the cycle of the hero, that every culture tells the same story. They just do it from their perspective, but all the steps are the same. And usually when we do this, we're talking about these grand epic stories. But what about me? What about you? What about our daily lives? How does that relate into what we do? And what I found out is that the hero cycle is the human metaphor. It is how we go through life. It is the cycle of challenge and achievement and change. It is thesis, antithesis, synthesis. It is the 3-act formula of get your hero up a tree, throw rocks at them, get them back down. As a friend of mine and I are so fond of saying, you cannot not do the hero journey. I'll give you a moment to let your brain catch up with that one. And so what I did was I simplified the hero journey down to what does it look like every day? And what it comes down to, the journey you are on every moment of your life, whether you are doing, whether you're writing a PhD thesis or taking out the garbage, is this: all is well until suddenly it's not. So you go to a new place, you learn new things, you overcome challenges, you find your hidden power, and you return again greater than you were before. All is well. And we are on this cycle every moment of our lives, and we are on multiple hero journeys at any one time. Now, if you couple that with what Gertner said about human beings are the only species that tell stories and then live by the stories we tell, we are creating our own reality at every moment. And to quote one of my favorite comics, the Killing Joke, Joker says, if I'm going to have a past, I prefer multiple choice. We get to choose our stories.
Well, and that is an apt and deep cut for this show, sir. Killing Joke. I don't know if you knew this, but just now you and I became best friends. So congratulations.
Pete is your new
nailed
friend.
it.
Excellent.
Nailed it. This is, I think, a great segue, at least for a sidebar. The part of the problem that we have when we think in terms of the metaphor of the hero journey, and when people come to us and to this show, often they bring the baggage of the agent of chaos, right? You said thesis, antithesis, but I would add hero antagonist. If you already believe you are the antagonist of your own story, how do you overcome that?
Can I give you an example?
I hope you will.
I'll tell you a story.
Okay.
So years ago, I did a school assembly program called Energy Resourcery. I played a character called the Energy Wizard. I was in my 20s and young and stupid, and I was a proto-human because we're not done yet at that age, okay? And I loved this job. We got to go around and do school assembly programs, and I got paid for it. This was fabulous. And I loved that job. And the problem was every morning when they came to pick me up, I was late by 5 or 10 minutes because, right, time blind.
Yep.
Time is now and not now. I didn't know it then, but all we can be is ourselves. And so the guy that hired me, we had to come to Jesus, And he said, if you are late again, if we have to wait on you again, we're done. We're replacing you. You don't get a vote in this. And that terrified me because I loved this job and I was in danger of losing it. And he got through to my hamster brain that was where we were. And it scared me. And I was not late again because I loved the job more than I hated wrestling, playing calendar Tetris. And so for years, I had this story that I'm always late. I'm always late. I suck. I'm always late.
And you have a boatload of evidence confirming that in your own head by now.
Yes, I did.
Yeah.
Now, we're going to fast forward. Years later, when I was doing programs in the medicine show, I was doing a show for an agent and I screwed my calendar up big time. Okay. We're going to go forward to about 2017. I was supposed to be in a Zoom meeting and I blew it off. I missed it. I didn't blow it off. I screwed up my calendar. The wheels came off the bus. And so crap, I knew it. I'm always late. Damn it. I did it again. And so I send emails out to everyone. And of course, ADHDers, they go, oh yeah, we do this. No big thing. Well, I was not through punishing myself. Thank you very much. We have raised this to an art form. And if I punish myself enough, then you don't have to. Bonus. And so I was beating myself up thoroughly. And my wife got kind of sick of this. And so she pulls me up short and she says, Erik, when was the last time you screwed your calendar up this bad? And I said, well, what? It had to be like a month or two ago because I'm always doing this. And she said, it was in, 2007 or whenever it was when I was doing the show for that agent and I screwed up my calendar and I was not there. And I went, wait, what? That's like 15 years. No, that can't be right. Well, I checked and it was right because, she has the memory. And I didn't know what to do with that.
I bet.
Completely counter to the narrative you've been telling yourself the whole time.
Yes, my narrative is I'm always late.
Look at all the evidence I have that I've made up. Yeah.
And so how exhausting that is. She's up, I'm on borrowed time. I'm going to be late. Mm-hmm. And so I tortured myself for 15 years with this story that I'm always late. Well, I had evidence that was not true. The last time I had done this to this degree was 15 years ago. So my new story is I am really good at being on time, but I have to pay attention.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That is a much healthier narrative. This is what we're talking about with reframing our stories, is that stories are rooted in information. Information is a thing. It is neutral. And the progression goes thing, story, emotion, action, result. So we have a thing. It is neutral. Okay. I missed a meeting. That's a fact. I missed a meeting. Mm-hmm. So I created a story around that. I'm always late. Stories create emotions. The emotion was negative. The emotion was shame. Welcome to how we live with ADHD. It's a very feelings forward existence. And that shame informs our action, and the action creates the result, which often goes back to the original thing. I'm late. So it is, I'm late, or, I missed a meeting because I'm always late. It creates shame. So I end up punishing myself and doing very, very harmful things to, I'm not doing self-care, self-compassion. Mm-hmm. And as a result, Now I perpetuate this idea that I can't be on time. And it feeds itself in terrible ways. But if I say to myself, oh, I missed a meeting, but I'm really good at being on time if I'm paying attention, that means I wasn't paying attention. What basics was I not doing?
Mm-hmm.
Where was I not paying attention? Oh, okay. This has changed. I need to change these external prompts and pay attention to my processes.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think that's a really great point. And to use your own the hero engine, right? All is well until suddenly it's not, and the calendar is screwed up, and we then have a choice, and it's generally for most of us an unconscious choice about inserting a narrative that fits the facts, or stopping ourselves, putting on the brake, and saying, what is the only thing I know? The only thing I know is I missed a meeting.
Facts are things that are true whether or not we choose to believe them.
Yes.
Beliefs are things we choose to trust whether or not they are true, and truths are beliefs that we choose to regard as facts. So we have a really, really bizarre relationship with information.
Right. It's so complicated. Yeah.
It is. And so you add to that the ADHD negativity bias.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that I can start with, I texted Pete. Why didn't he text me back?
He doesn't like
text
me.
me back.
I did something wrong.
Oh my God. I probably pissed him off. He's mad at me. Oh God, he's mad at me. He's never going to talk to me. I go from Pete didn't text me back. I will take it all the way up to the zombie apocalypse.
Yeah.
Because when we don't have information, we play Mad Libs. We fill things in, and we do the Spinal Tap thing. We crank it up to 11, and we fill those Mad Libs in with negativity.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And we make it worst case scenario.
Mm-hmm.
I like to use that Mad Lib and just replace it with attacked by a shark, because that always resets. It sounds ridiculous, and that's intentional. Like, what are the odds that he didn't text me back because he was attacked by a shark? That is exactly as likely as him not liking me anymore, right?
True.
And my wife and I do this all the time. This is actually this is a very similar to a CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy technique, where you do something in a ridiculous voice. We call it giving voice to the inner toddler.
Sure.
And so if she says, Erik, can you take out the garbage? And I'll look at her and go, no, I don't want to. And we look at each other and we laugh, and we have just denied this voice, our inner toddler. We've denied it energy, because ODD, oppositional defiance, is one of the coexistent conditions that go with the neuroatypical brain wiring we have. And so a way to reframe that reaction, I'm going to have these negative reactions, but I get choices around what to do with them. And those choices are expanded when I choose my emotional reaction to the stories I'm creating.
You know, something that's really interesting about what you said, and I just want to highlight, you're saying I can be on time if I pay attention, or when I pay attention. And what I love about that is it's the acceptance of ADHD. It's and the responsibility of it, right? Yeah, you're not just assuming or accepting the fact that I just am never going to be on time. You're really looking at, I can be, and these are the structures and the things I need to do to make that happen. But I'm capable. I'm capable.
Absolutely. And as a coach, here's the difference between coaching and therapy. Therapy is about healing your pain. It is about making yourself okay with what was. Okay. It is about creating acceptance, and so that you aren't anchored in things that don't serve you. Coaching is about moving forward. And it's about, okay, this is where we are. Where do we want to be? And as a coach, unlike therapy, I don't treat you like you're broken, because you're not.
I'm really, my brain is like rattling around with the acceptance and responsibility of ADHD, because too often we see, even in our own community, people who are ostensibly there because they've already embraced it to some degree on their own journey, their own space in their own lives with ADHD. And we have, someone will recommend a tool and someone else will say, I can't do this because ADHD, which.
And it becomes, I can't do that
Right.
yet. Here's the thing. We can only be the hero of our own journey. You can only be a companion or an obstacle on someone else's, and you get to choose which one that is.
Yeah. I can't do that yet. Everybody, just say that again. Everybody listening, I can't do that yet. Oh, yet. Yes, and. Absolutely love it. Okay. As we get toward wrapping up here, I'd like to talk about some practicals for people who are listening to this, like our dear friend Allison in the chat room, who's saying her mind is blown about negative Mad Libs. Let's talk about how to condition yourself, how to make self-advocacy in this spirit a practice. How do you make it part of your life?
Self-advocacy starts with advocating for yourself with yourself. You have to advocate for your best self with yourself before you can advocate involving someone else. And that advocacy, that relationship that you have with yourself is vitally important. It starts with the stories that you are telling yourself. And the first thing that is necessary if you are going to change and reframe that story is to stop. Pause. ADHD, living successfully with ADHD starts with pause. Stop. Our brain spins up, things go faster and faster, and it is the most counterintuitive thing that we can think of is I have so many things. Oh my God, everything's going so fast. And the one thing you don't want to do is slow down and stop. Stop. Breathe. Go back to, okay, what's the story I'm telling myself? What is the thing, that neutral factoid that this story is about? And is that all that can mean? I've cast this negatively. I'm telling a story to myself that doesn't serve me. What other stories can this be? Now, here's a pro tip. And by the way, you don't have to remember any of this. I actually made a whole handout for a TED Talk I did on writing your hero story, and that's available on my website.
Oh, great!
And
we'll put a link to it,
which is coachingforcreativebrains.com. But here's the thing: when you are reframing your story, when you're creating that hero story, every hero has a quest. Don't make the quest epic. Make the quest what you are doing every day. Epic is what happens when you retell the story later. Epic is what happens when the bards sing about it. Every story is just trying to get through to the other side. Like I said, the Odyssey, Odysseus. Odysseus was just a guy who was trying to get home from work after a bad day.
Yeah.
So don't make your quest epic. Make your quest, make what you are doing something you are doing. Lean into that. And sometimes the best thing you can do to reframe your story is tell that story to someone else. We are social animals, and ADHDers, we struggle. I could do an entire thing on social.
Yeah.
I help ADHDers with the social thing all the time. I can't tell you the number of times I've had clients where, oh my God, I'm about to, I suck at work and I'm going to get fired, because of employment, right? And we start working on social, and they go, wait, what? No, I need to learn how to be organized. And that the social is one of the most important things you can do for ADHD. We don't get it. Small talk is opaque to us very often. And so stories are meant to be told. So find someone to tell your story to and get feedback from, and share stories and tell stories and compare stories and talk about stories. And don't do this alone.
Community.
Find a companion to be on your
Mm-hmm.
hero journey.
I love that.
Also, when you get low and gravelly like that in your voice, I want you to come over and tell me a bedtime story. You got great pipes, man.
I was once told I not an exaggeration, someone said, "Doc, you have a voice like cream cheese."
Oh, that's great.
Oh, God, if only we did comic titles.
I know,
that would be
right?
the title of this
so
episode.
something I have to say again that just really struck me with what you said, and this is I think one of my biggest takeaways from today, is that you have to be a advocate for yourself, to yourself. I don't remember exactly how you said it, but I totally get that. Like, if you don't have that for yourself, you're not going to ever believe anything that anybody else has to say to help you or to give you that support. It's so huge.
Our relationships are the relationships we have with ourselves writ large. So often with ADHD, it's the relationship that we have with ourselves that we mirror into everything else. And we come at it with such a scarcity mentality. And I'm going to go into the superhero thing here. I've equated this with, we kind of begin to get the idea that we could have more, but we have a very sidekick mentality. It's, I really don't deserve this, but I want it. Can I please have some? It's the sidekick. The sidekick is trying to validate themselves to everyone, and they're saying, "Can I have pie, please? Oh, please, sir, can I have another?"
Yeah.
And as we get into and this gets into the social, as we begin to find our, oh, I can do this, then we feel that we have to defend our right to be in a space. We become a scrapper. And the scrapper is all about, I'm going to prove to you that I'm worthy, which is, I'm going to prove to myself that I'm worthy. And so it's, I'll fight you for that piece of pie. Later, we realize that we don't have to fight our way through everything, but we're still deep in validation. And so we become a scorekeeper, and the scorekeeper is only as good as their last accomplishment. And when they screw something up, they're done. And they're saying, look how much pie I have. That's how worthy I am. But we get to a point where we support each other through this, where we are our best selves, not every day, not every moment, but that we are cognitively consonant, and we become a mentor to ourselves and others. And the mentor says, it's about lifting other people and lifting ourselves up and supporting each other. And the mentor says, who wants to make pie?
Fantastic.
It's so good. That is so good. And it really, you've just connected to this thing that I realize that I do still, even as somebody who's spent the last couple of decades trying to figure all this out. I still do this thing where I can put myself in a negative self-talk space by telling myself that my story isn't epic enough. This whole thing about that our stories only have to be epic in the retelling is amazing to me, because that is, that is the little voice that is constantly telling me you're not doing enough, your story's not big, you haven't accomplished enough, you're not this enough, you're not this enough. Because ADHD is the natural language. Like, that's what I mean when making this stuff a practice.
So therefore,
everyone else is outsides.
Suck.
Yes.
But if we judge ourselves by but we judge others by their actions. We judge ourselves by our intentions. It's that whole inside outside thing, and the dichotomy of what is epic. And epic is how the story is perceived. It is never about how the story is lived.
I'm already going to be hunting for links of things that you've mentioned for this show, but I'm going to cut us off because obviously you're going to have to come back some other time, Doc. This is terrific.
I'd love to.
Yeah.
This is a wonderful beginning to the conversation. There is so much to explore here, and what we want to do is to help people understand that, ADHD, I tell people that I turn ADHD into your greatest strength instead of your biggest struggle. Now, it is not easy.
Yeah.
It takes work, but it doesn't have to be full of suck to do it. And this is the kind of stuff that we do. I struggled for so many years. I am 59 years old, and there's so much of this stuff that I just now feel like I'm starting to begin to get a handle on.
I'm in. Where do you want people? You've already mentioned the link. Is there anything else you want to plug besides your website that you're doing right now that we can help send people to?
Website, coachingforcreativebrains.com. I also have an Instagram, which is ADHD Flying Squirrel. And I've got a number of things up there I haven't posted in a while because reasons. And then there's also a YouTube channel, ADHD Flying Squirrel, where I've been playing with things.
That's fantastic.
Outstanding.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Doc Anderson. We sure appreciate having you here.
This has been a blast.
Introducing you to our community. Everybody go check out all the work that Doc Anderson has done and, commence the foot tapping and breath holding for when we get him back.
If you are interested in coaching, I will tell you right now, when people contact me, I direct them to a webinar that I put together on ADHD. It does a lot of shortcutting the language so that we can begin to have a conversation. And what my job is to help you understand what your next step is. Whether or not that is coaching with me or not, you have to have a coach that fits you. It may not be me. And that's cool. That you should never do coaching with someone that you don't feel comfortable, connected, and safe with. So, if you've had difficulty with coaching in the past, don't give up on coaching. Very often that you may not have been the right coach. Right. So you want people in your corner that are going to help you be the best you.
Perfect way to wrap us up. Thank you very much, Doc Anderson. We appreciate you and your time. My pleasure. Thank you, everybody, for downloading and listening to this show. We sure appreciate your time and attention. On behalf of Nikki Kinzer and Erik Doc Anderson, we'll catch you right here next time, right on Taking Control, the ADHD podcast.